As the last lecture, we talked about C++ introduction, which is a very basic concept of how you can just print out the statement, and also some like an IDE that you are able to program on the computer. And now let's just continue with the second lection, and it's going to be another part of introduction, and then how the C++ is going to give you some insights of when you start a C++ or any other programming languages. So it's going to be very important that you have to know the basic concept. For example, what is an identifier means? So identifier is going to be including some type and objects and template. So what does this mean? So type, if you are Python, you would be knowing, okay, you create an instance. An instance is something like you want to, for example, it's a small part of function. It's just like a partial from the function. You type, you wanted to make sure what type of the instance you have been just created. It's like a string, or it's just like an integer, or it's like a double. So a string, which is, for example, you can say a word, hello world, or you can say orange, banana, computer, or even your name that you just wanted to create it, like it's called a string. Another type that we want to talk about maybe an integer. Integers we talked about in the math class. Integer is going to be starting from 0, and then you go right on your real line. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go left. It's going to be -1, -2, -3, and then go infinity, negative infinity. So, but it does not contain any decimals. So you cannot. So if you create a integer type, let's say you cannot do something like you wanted to express the number as 5.0. That's not going to work. That's going to give you a syntax error, because when you are trying to express an integer, and there has to be an integer, it cannot just contain any other decimals. An object is where you create a function. It can be called an object. Okay, so the template, where you can have multiple functions inside your template, and you can just call every time. So in the future, we were going to be going very detailed about how to create a template. Every time you wanted to use this function, you do not need to retype it again. For example, you wanted to do 1 + 1 at this part. You want to do addition. You just define a function from the previous, and then every time you just call it. And then when you call it, not every time you wanted to call the entire, like first you wanted to do addition, then you wanted to do subtraction, and then you just call it as a template. So it will be automatically do everything as a series of functions sequentially for you. So that it's called a template. It's called like a footprint, or when you do a cookie, and then you have those frame, and then you put on top of a cookie, and then it would give you a shape. So we call it a template. The main function is where you wanted to define as do something inside your main function, where you can define some like a variable inside or outside of the main function, where it is a global, and then you call it in your main function is something I want to do with this your program. If you do not have anything to do with in your program, that's not gonna so it doesn't make any sense. For example, when we go back to the last lecture, we talk about how to print a hello world. So this is language C, and we want to ship it back to here, C++. We just choose, as last time I showed everyone about this GDB. It's very easy function IDE for beginners, and this is going to be the header line, and then include IO string library, where you can do a lot of stds and cout. So you can just do the int main function, where you want to do as this is you're gonna be something like you want to do something, you want to execute. So the last time we talked about how to do the printout statement of hello world. And then you have to give a semicolon on here. So which means I'm gonna be execute up to this line here. And then what's really important is gonna be return 0. That gives you the meaning, okay, it's gonna be execute of the entire block and execute this program, and then it's gonna be execute up to here successfully. And then now let's just execute is gonna give you a hello world. Okay, so main function is always gonna be showing you do something and how you wanted to make the comment, where you have double forward slash and you can type something, main function, and then you want to show what the meaning, main function, which is saying do something. And then what do you want to execute? What do you want to realize in your code, in your function? Okay, and then the next part we want to talk about the syntax error. The syntax error where the compiler, where you wanted to execute your program in any language. For example, C++ has its own syntax. Java has its own syntax. JavaScript also has its own syntax, like a grammar. And also Python has also different types. So every language all have its different grammar. So if you wanted to program in C++, you have to know what is the syntax and then what is the grammar for the specific language. Sometimes people are confused of bugs, because I have a lot of students talking about, oh, I have a bugs in my code. I said, okay, I said, okay, what kind of bugs do you have? He said, when it showed me, and then it gives me a lot of bunches of syntax errors, a lot of errors that cannot actually execute in the entire program cannot execute. So I would say, okay, you just had actually a lot of syntax errors in your function or in your code. You just need to figure out by using W3 schools, and I recommend W3 school. And then it will give you a lot of syntax, the grammar for each languages, whichever you like, and you can just use this tool. Okay. So the bugs is gonna be something I recognize as like a logical bugs. Logical bugs is very difficult to identify. It involves into a lot of like software testing. If you work in a industry, for example, if you design a program or an app, that has to be realized, consider of all situations. So there is no app ever or website ever exist in the world that and say it has 0 bugs. Okay, so most of the cases, the software engineering is trying the best to think of all situations that can cause the program crash, or any situation that can cause potential losses for the institute or for the company who is actually using your program. Especially some companies, for example, the bank, it has to be like a higher security of including cybersecurity, or if multiple people are trying to get the cash from the ATM, or using the app, and then what is going to be, and then so it's going to be involving a lot of logical insights inside your program. So we just wanted to know, identify when your program, is that actually a syntax error that you can just fix to make your program execute, run with no problem, or is that a potential logical bugs? Potential logical bugs are very hard to identify and very hard to solve. But syntax errors are different. The compilers will tell you, okay, there's something wrong. For example, you're missing a semicolon, or this is not going to execute properly, or you have like a time run out of time, execution time. It will always give you, the compilers tell you, okay, this is not going to work, and then you can just fix in your code directly. Okay, and that's it. Hopefully you had learned something from this.